What's up, Padlords? It's your god, Lightwater here, coming at you with another video. And today, we're going to be going over Discipline Priest. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, let's get started. So, Discipline Priest has the 40% template that if you watched the last video about the Resto Shaman, you would know. Essentially, there's a plus 40% to all healing spells. Now, it's worth noting that this does not affect shields. Even though typically shields are considered heals for the purpose of this passive, they did not receive the buff, and all your damage did not receive the buff. So when we go through these numbers, guys, keep in mind that all things like Shadow Mend, Empower with Radiance, anything that has a heal on it, will actually be 40% higher than the numbers I'm about to read off. I will show those reflected in the notepad later on. But let's get started. So first thing is, okay, Flash Shield does not exist anymore. So they don't have Flash Shield. All they have for heals are Power Word Shield, Shadow Mend, and Power Word Radiance. So let's read off Power Word Shield first. 2.5% of base mana. Shield to an ally for the actual amount, because that is incorrect. The actual amount is 154. So it is not 462. That is wrong. Penance. 2% of your base mana, 9-second cooldown. Launch a volley of holy light at the target, causing 120 spell power, holy damage to the enemy, or 213 spell power healing to an ally over 2 seconds. Castable while moving. It's pretty good. The 9 seconds is not reduced by haste, so that is worth mentioning. Smite, I think this is just the passive part. Yeah, this just increases the damage done by 50%. So if you go over here in the baseline, Smite is written down right here. So the numbers here are wrong. It hasn't been increased by 50%. So it basically says smite an enemy for 75% spell power, holy damage, and absorb the next 65 spell power damage dealt by the enemy. So you hit them for 75 and you absorb the next 65 damage that they would do. It's pretty decent. It only costs 0.5% of your base mana and takes the second half to cast. It's an incredibly efficient spell. I will show you later. Okay, so if you don't know how Discipline works, you have a thing called Atonement. When you put Power Word Shield, Shadow Mend, or Power Word Radiance on a target, it applies Atonement for 15 seconds. Power Radiance is not 15 seconds, it's only 9. So it only puts Atonement on for 60%. So essentially the only ways that you could put reliable Atonement on that's not locked by a cooldown is either Power Word Shield or Shadow Mend. So there's only 2 spells, and those only affect 1 target each time, besides Power Radiance. Plea does not exist anymore. So if you were playing a Disc Priest before, Plea is no longer a thing. It is gone. You do have Desperate Prayer, which you did not have before. However, you do not have a way in your talent tree to get a reduced cooldown, so it is locked at 1.5 minute cooldown. It's a decent defensive, and you'll probably have to use it to survive certain mechanics, but it's just worth noting. It is a decent heal too. So okay, Shadow Mend, I don't know if I read this one yet, but 3% of your base mana, 1.5 second cast time, no cooldown. Wraps an ally in shadows, which heals for 180%, but at a price. The 180% is increased by 40% and does become 252. Levitate, Holy Nova. Okay, so Holy Nova now has a little baby heal on it, right? Holy Nova also does damage. So Holy Nova, if you do damage with it, it can actually heal your targets with Atonement. It's 1.6% of your base mana, and it causes an explosion of light around you, doing 20% of your spell power holy damage to all enemies within 12 yards, and 10% spell power healing to all allies within 12 yards. If there's enough enemies around, this is actually quite good. I want to say the breakaway point's around like 5 or 6 enemies. You actually want to start using Holy Novas to do Atonement healing than like Smites or other things. It's actually pretty cool. It's going to be interesting spamming Holy Nova, like it's an AoE down ads to heal your group, and that's something that you'll have to figure out, but it's very fun actually. Okay, that's the Absorb. Focus Will, this just gives you basically 30% damage reduction if you're constantly getting hit by melee. The Holy Priest also had that too. Shadow Fiend, 3-minute cooldown. Summon a Fiend to attack target for 15 seconds. Does not cost mana, and it is instant. This gets off something like, it's like 6, for 15 seconds, I think it's like 10 attacks. So it's not bad. I have the numbers over here, I'll show you in a second, but not bad. It's not a bad cooldown. It does quite a bit of damage while it's up. I think it's like 630. Yeah, 630 damage on average. So if you compare it to the damage of Smite, which was 75, it's quite high. Pain suppression, just a typical tank cooldown. 40% DR for 8 seconds, pretty solid. Rapture, so this one got changed quite a bit. 1.5 minute cooldown. For the next 10 seconds, Power Word Shield absorbs an additional 200%. So essentially, you'll do Power Word Shields that are 3 times as powerful as normal. So instead of 100, it'd be 300. It's pretty decent. Power Word Shield no longer has a cooldown, so you can spam Power Word Shield basically for the whole 10 seconds. However, I should mention that Rapture is on the GCD. So you use Rapture and basically waste 1.5 seconds of the duration because you have to pay for the GCD. It's kind of dumb, but hey, that's the game we play now. Power Radiance, 6.5% of your base mana. It has 2 charges, is a 2-second cast with a 20-second recharge. The recharge is not affected by haste like it used to be, so it is going to be 20 seconds forever. A burst of light heals the target and 4 injured allies within 30 yards for 62.5% of spell power and applies atonement for 60% of its duration, aka 9 seconds. That 62.5% spell power does receive the 40% buff from the template, and it becomes 87.5. All in all, the spell will do 437.5 healing. It's okay. It's definitely the best way you have of putting atonements out, and it'll be a big part of your combo. Power of the Dark Side. This is a passive. This was from the artifact weapon, and it's now baked into the kit, which is kind of nice. Shadow or Pain has a chance to empower your next penance with Shadow, increasing its effectiveness by 50%. So that's 50% increase on its healing or damage. The way that this is written, it makes you think that there is a chance to get it whenever it ticks or whenever you cast it. It's somewhat correct, somewhat wrong. Essentially, there is a limited number of procs you are allowed a minute, and the base is 1. So if you've already gotten your Power of Darkside proc like 1 per minute, then you can only ever get more if you have more haste, right? So on average, you're only going to get about 1.2 procs per minute of this. So yeah, it's all right. It's whatever. Leap of Faith. Is there anything else? Okay, Power Word Barrier, 3-minute cooldown. It's a huge, essentially 25% damage reduction for your whole raid for 10 seconds as long as they stand in it. That's a talent. We don't get that. Okay, let's talk about your mastery. So Atonement is a passive, and your mastery increases the healing that you transfer to your Atonement by 12.8% base. It scales pretty well, and it's worth noting that it increases healing. Wait, actually, that's the wrong one. Sorry. It's this one. Your healing and absorption is increased by 9.6% on targets with Atonement. My bad. That means that if you heal a target and you put a Atonement on them, you can heal them again, and the heal will be increased. Average mastery is like 25% right now. Actually, it's kind of a little bit low. You could get like 30%, but let's use 25%. So if you were to put like Power Word Shield on somebody, then heal them with a Shadowman, that Shadowman would do 25% more. So it's a pretty decent passive. It also obviously affects all Atonement healing because they have Atonement already. So all your Atonement healing will automatically be increased, and basically the second healing spell on the target after you put the first one on will be increased as well. So that's the base kit. I will show you the base values right here. Essentially, I have their coefficient here. Sorry, I'm still a little sick. Here's their cooldowns, the mana cost, and I went ahead and did the classic. I divided it by the mana cost, and I have the efficiencies here for you guys. Oh yeah, I also have the 40% factored in here. Silence phone. Okay. So you'll see some things right off the bat. Penance is actually a pretty decent heal on its own. Obviously, this isn't factoring in Atonement, right? Oh, by the way, all the Atonement for these numbers right here, I will show you in this giant notepad here. I have factored in, and that's what this A number here is. So let's go ahead and look at the talents now, and prepare yourself, guys. As a side note, I spent about 20 hours of probably math on this character, or on Disc Priest, to try to figure them out. I went hard for you guys. Okay, it was rough. It's rough to say the least, and this is probably going to be the longest video by far. But we're going to take our time and we're going to get through this. Disc Priest is very complicated, and so if you choose to play it, I applaud you. I really do. I'm probably not going to play it. Okay, so Castigation. This is about a 2 to 4% HPS increase. My reasoning was essentially this gives your penance a 33% damage increase because you go from 3 to 4 bolts. Since you only use a penance every 24 seconds with a Schism build, right? Obviously, you won't be using Schism here, so even if you were to use Penance on cooldown, it's not the greatest HPS increase. For a 5-man, it could see some play, but it's only like a 33% increase to your Penance, and there's so much of your kit that comes from other things besides Penance. It just really falls short. Maybe if it was 2 additional bolts, we could start talking, but all in all, it's only about the 2 to 4% HPS increase. It does work well with certain talents later on, like Contrition, but I'll get to that. It's just not that good. Twist of Fate. After healing a target below 35%, you deal 20% increased damage and 20% increased healing for 10 seconds. This does not double dip. So you cannot increase like a damage spell from 100 to 120 and then increase the atonement that you would receive from that damage spell again. So it's a one-way, right? Your damage is increased or your healing is increased, but not both, because obviously then that would be like, a 44% HPS increase while you had it on, and that's not allowed. So anyways, let's say this has a 10% uptime. It would be 50% uptime. On average, it'd be a 10% increase. So I kind of look at Twist of Fate. It obviously depends heavily on the fight, and if you're able to always have it up, it would be a 20% HPS increase. But most fights you won't always have it up, and so in very hard mythic content, I'll say 50% uptime equals 10% increased HPS. Schism. My god, they buffed the hell out of this spell. It's insane. First of all, it only costs 0.5% of a base mana, so it's very cheap. It's the same price as your Smite. 24-second cooldown. Haste does not decrease this. 1.5-second cast. Attack an enemy's soul with a surge of shadow energy, dealing 140 spell damage, shadow damage, and increasing the damage that you do to the target by 40% for 9 seconds. This talent is so good, it fundamentally changes the entire class. Essentially, because Schism's cooldown is basically the same as Power Radiance's cooldown, you will always use Schism with at least 1 Power Radiance, and you'll probably cast a couple spells before the Power Radiance to really get like 10 targets with Atonement, and then you Schism, and then you do 9 seconds of 40% basically increased Atonement healing. It's very strong. I have this as a 32% HPS increase. This is going to make you do so much Atonement healing. That Atonement healing is going to be like 80% of your overall healing. Like, it's going to be insane. Honestly, it's just going to be madness. You have to go Schism. Like, there's no... Like, in raiding, you go Schism. Maybe in 5-mans, you can make a case for Castigation. And if you can maintain 100% uptime on Twist of Fate, you could troll around and grab it, especially if you can't get good Schism windows. But Schism is it just changes the way you play, guys. It changes you from being this consistent healer to a really, really powerful burst healer. And that your efficiency just skyrockets. This next row doesn't really matter. You'll be doing a fair amount of powered shields, so Body and Soul is not bad. Obviously, Feather is good. Okay, for the row 45. So, this row gave me so many problems. I'm going to say right now, all 3 of these are viable. They are all very viable, and they're all about an 11% HPS increase, believe it or not. So, Shield Discipline. You're going to be casting quite a few shields over the course of a fight. On average, I think it was like 16 per minute. So this gives you back quite a bit of mana. It's just a lot of mana back. It's just like it's essentially going to increase the efficiency of your combo by 11.62%. And I'll explain the combo later because it's really complicated. But yeah, it's just generally this is the easiest one of the 3 to use, and it's pretty decent. Mindbender. This, I got about a 12% HPS increase. This one's a little bit more difficult to use. Essentially, you use this with Evangelism, okay? What you're going to do is you essentially put out 2 Power Radiances, you Evangelism, and then you summon Mindbender after you Schism a target. Yeah, it's getting complicated already, I know. I'm trying to keep this simple, but it's very complicated rotations. And essentially, while this Mindbender is out for 12 seconds, he'll be attacking and doing 40% increased damage and transferring all of that damage over to healing. This replaces Shadow Fiend. So Shadow Fiend typically is a 3-minute cooldown. And I should mention that it actually, like when you take this talent, it reduces the duration from 15 to 12 seconds and decreases the damage he does by about 10 to 15%. So it is a big hit to his overall damage, but you get to use him so much more often. And that means that you can always pair a Mindbender with your Evangelism. So you wouldn't use this every minute, you'd use it every 1.25 minutes, the same cooldown as Evangelism. and you'd always use Schism, and it's insane healing. I don't know what else to say. It's about the same HPS increase that you could expect from Shield Discipline, because this does give mana back and it does increase your healing, whereas this just gives a lot of mana back. So this is definitely preference. Also, Powered Solace, just as viable as these three. Powered Solace is a 10.37% HPS increase. So with 20% haste, Powered Solace has a 10-second cooldown, because its cooldown is reduced by haste. And what it says is you strike an enemy with heavily powered, dealing 100% of your spell power, holy damage, and restoring 1% of your maximum mana. Because you can use this essentially 6 times a minute, you can get 36 of these off. And that's a 36% of your maximum mana back over the course of a fight, which is pretty decent. Not to mention, it hits harder than Smite, so it would replace a Smite in your combo, which is also nice, saving you another 0.5% mana. Overall, it's pretty good. All three of these are viable, guys. I will leave it up to you to pick which one you want. I personally will probably be choosing either Shield Discipline or Mindbender, because I feel like Solace is just another button and it's difficult. Like once you hear the rotation, guys, I think you're gonna want to go with these two, because the rotation is very difficult. So I'm gonna side with Shield Discipline for now. This doesn't really matter. Pick whatever you want. Okay, so the 75 row. Essentially, since the mini was interesting, this goes all the way down to like only 3% increased damage when you have like 12 targets with Atonement up. So it's not that much of an HPS increase, because basically during the combo you're gonna have like 11 targets with Atonement anyways. So it's basically only gonna give you a 3% damage increase. However, the other two talents suck so much dick that it's basically the only choice. And in downtime, when you don't have that many Atonements up, you will basically get the full 12%. So overall, it's a passive, it's easy to use, and it's definitely better than these ones. So, Contrition. The reason why this talent is not good, and it's a 0 HPS increase, by the way, is because it requires you to heal with your penance. And the word heal is, I say that with air quotes because it means you can't use it to do damage, right? It's not talking about atonement healing. It's talking about you actually clicking penance and clicking it on one of your allies rather than using it against the boss to do damage. The contrition heal versus how much heal you're losing with atonement, contrition only makes up about 70% of the heal. So you lose 30% essentially of like an atonement heal from penance when you do this. And I think the breakaway point was like if you're like 6 or 7 targets with atonement up, it's better to not even use contrition. So contrition is only worthwhile using in a 5-man. And I could totally see you taking Castigation and Contrition for a 5-man, but you have to go Schism and probably Sins of the Mini for a raid. Contrition just didn't feel good. And there's so many other healers that are better at healing single targets that it's not your job to beam somebody up with penance. Like, you're here to AoE heal, and you're here to heal huge AoE spike damage really well. Shadow Covenant. This is just a joke of a spell. I have no idea who's creating these talent trees, but this is just a disaster. It's 2.8% of your base mana, so it's a little bit costly. 12-second cooldown, which cannot be decreased by haste. Draw the power of Shadow to heal the target and 4 injured allies within 30 yards for 135% spell power, but leaves a shell and then absorbs the next 67.5% of spell power received within 6 seconds. Essentially, it puts a shield up 50% of the amount or half of the amount that you heal. This does count against you in logs and in the recount or details. It's just not even that good. If it let's say it didn't put the shell on them, it would still be bad. It's just not good enough. Your normal combo is so mana efficient, so powerful, that this random spell that's randomly on a 12-second cooldown just doesn't make any sense in the kit. Maybe you could see some use in a 5-man, I guess. So I guess you could check either Contrition or Shadow Covenant for a 5-man, but honestly, even Sins of the Mini wouldn't be that bad, because it would only be down to like 6% with 5 people. So I don't really know. It's just a trash spell, and don't use it. I mean, it's if you want to know its healing efficiency, its healing efficiency is 168.75, which is not that good because your main combo is like 350. So it's like terrible. It's just terrible. All right, row 90. Okay, so we have Purge the Wicked. Purge the Wicked has typically been the go-to, I'd say, for a while. It's not really that good this time around, though. So Purge the Wicked isn't actually that that good because it only really adds a 1.3% DPS increase to Shadow Word Pain. The main increase in damage is from the increased duration, right? So your Shadow Word Pain only typically lasts 16 seconds, whereas Purge the Wicked makes it last 20 seconds. This obviously, you know, makes it where it does like 30% more damage, right? But it's sort of like an illusion because it just makes it last longer. However, because of the nature of the combo, we will only cast one Shadow Word Pain before we do the combo every time. So it lasting another 4 seconds is actually a big deal. So I have this at a 2.84% HPS increase / so this is with 2 targets, or a 10.84% HPS increase. So Purge the Wicked is only worth it if there's a target that you can cleave and spread on. Now, because of your rotation later on, essentially you're only going to be able to spread it at half its duration because you don't spread a full duration of Purge the Wicked when you pin it to the target. You spread the remaining duration. So, for example, if you had Purged the Wicked, the boss, and then another ad or another boss came running out beside him, 10 seconds later, if you were to penance the boss, you would only give that other ad or that other boss a 10-second Purge the Wicked, not the full 20%. So that's definitely worth noting. That being said, I think it's still really good. Only on cleave fight though. So if you can get a cleave fight, it becomes viable. If it's just a single boss with no ads or no nothing ever, then no. And honestly, there needs to be an ad up or another boss alongside the boss 100% of the time for this to really be worth it. Divine Star. So the reason Divine Star is not really too good. It's only about a 2.53% HPS increase. The problem is it costs 2% of base mana, and that's 4 times the price of Smite. And you know, you're only going to hit about 10 targets on average with Divine Star. And the atonement healing that you're going to do with the Divine Star is like just barely better than Smite. So it's just not that much better. And you would probably use this, like it as a 15-second cooldown, it's going to disrupt your rotation. Your rotation is every 24 seconds that you do this big combo, right? So you'd have to delay it by quite a bit. You'd have to delay it by 9 seconds so you could use it during the rotation. If you don't use it during the rotation, you'll do no atonement healing with it whatsoever. Ultimately, I found that it was was not that good. Halo. Now, this is like 2.5 Divine Stars put into 1 cooldown for the price of basically 1 Divine Star. It's a lot better. Halo is about a 10% HPS increase. The reason being is it'll probably hit about 15 people on average because you can assume that a 343 ray is within 30 yards of you. And the healing on it is actually quite high. It just does a decent amount of healing, and if you use it during a combo, half the raid are going to have atonement. So not only are you going to do more healing because of your mastery, you're going to do atonement healing to every person hit. So you're going to hit the boss for 110 spell power damage, which is about the same. Actually, it's more powerful than Smite. So it's like a Smite hitting the boss, healing everybody with atonement on top of the heal that it already does. It's pretty good. And you're definitely going to want to use Halo during a really juicy Schism Powered Radiance combo. Alright, the last row. So, Lenience is trash. Essentially, if this had Atonement absorbs damage taken by 3%, that would be amazing, right? Because then it could at least pad the meters and increase your HPS. But the problem with it reducing damage, and only by 3%, is it's just not that good. Like, this isn't going to increase your healing. And 3% is not that good because average atonement up at any given point in time, you maybe have like 5 atonement targets up, like on average across the entire duration of the fight. So that's only 25% of the raid with atonement on average. So you'd only take 25% of 3%, which is like, it's like 0.75% damage reduction for the whole raid on average, which is just nothing. Luminous Barrier, I really thought this was going to be the best one, but it's okay. It's not that good. Luminous Barrier is about a 6% HPS increase. It's a really solid cooldown, and you might have to spec into it on certain fights, right? But it'll be a big hit to your HPS because Evangelism is just god tier. Essentially, every 3 minutes, it replaces your power barrier, and you give everybody a really, really juicy shield. The shield is like double the strength of your powered shield. So it's as if you cast 2 powered shields on the entire raid. Obviously, this will have a lot more value if you're a heroic raider and you have 30 people in the raid. But For 20-man mythic, it's good. It's definitely good, but it's not the greatest. You'll be able to get 2 of these off in the fight, but it will use 8% of your mana because it costs 4% per use. It's good. It's good. Problem is, evangelism is great. At 1.25 minute cooldown, aka 75 seconds. It extends the duration of all of your active atonements by 6 seconds. Now, there's a slight problem with this spell. It is on the GCD. So the first, if you have 20% haste, essentially the first 1.25 seconds will be wasted. So you'll only really extend the duration of all your atonements by 4.75 seconds. Okay, whatever. This is God tier. Essentially, before every evangelism, you always are going to cast 2 power radiances, and you'll probably have spammed a whole bunch of powered shields out. So the rotation is going to be, with evangelism, is going to be something like this. You put Shadow Word Pain up, okay, then you do 6 powered shields, 2 power word radiances, and then you hit evangelism. Then you put Schism on the target, and then you penance, and then you smite. Or, you'd put Halo in there too, obviously, right after you Schism. And I will sort of, this is where it gets crazy, guys. I will sort of explain this. So, evangelism, by the way, is about a 13% HPS increase, because it's just, it'll essentially affect every 3rd Schism. And it'll more than double the healing on your combo, because of just how stupidly broken it is. Okay, so how did I figure all this out? I theory crafted every rotation I could possibly think of until I wanted to kill myself. I tried 8 global heals and then 4 damage spells. So what this would be is like 8 Shadowmans or 8 powered shields. And so on the left here is Shadowmans, on the right here is powered shields. I tried 6 Shadowmans and 6 powered shields with 6 smites. I tried 4 Shadowmans, 4 powered shields, 8 smites. I tried every combination of spells I could possibly come up with to try to find the most efficient way to play the game. And so my first rendition, I essentially came up with this, right? I found that the highest efficiency so far was to cast 1 heal and then follow it up with 3 damage, or 3 heals and 9 damage spells. So like 9 smites, 3 Shadowmans, or 3 powered shields and 9 smites. The powered shield eventually started winning out, as you'll notice here. See, when you did more heals, Shadowmans were better, but when you did more atonement healing, the powered shields are better. So yeah, that was the first version. Then I thought, okay, what if we do a longer combo? What if the combo is like 15 to 28 seconds? So what if we do 15 seconds of healing, so Shadowmans or powered shields, and then we did 12 globals worth of damage. So 12 globals of healing, 12 globals of damage. And then this is where it gets crazy. So I got the efficiency all the way up to 195. And this left side, again, is with Shadowmans. This right side over here is, again, with powered shields. It's a lot to take in, I know. So 195 is pretty decent. You're getting close to, like, Binding Heal of a Holy Priest. But that wasn't good enough, right? So I needed to come up with a better way. So I was like, okay, well, let's mix in Schism, right? And let's mix in a Power Word Radiance. Like, let's see what the real combo is going to be. So we did that, and I got the efficiency all the way up to 286. And this is with 8 Power Word Shields cast, 1 Power Radiance, and then all smites. Okay, so we got it up to 286. With Shield Discipline, it goes to 327. Then I tried a new combo. What if we do 6 Power Word Shields, 1 Power Word Radiance, with a Penance, and then smites. So, also Schism, right? So 6 Power Word Shields, 1 Power Word Radiance, 1 Schism, 1 Penance, and then 6 smites. And we got the efficiency all the way up to 307 or 346 with Shield Discipline. Then I mixed in a Shadow Word Pain before you do the cooldown, before you do the combo, and I got it all the way up to 358. It was 320 or 358 with Shield Discipline, and that is the final number, guys. Believe it or not, this took hours and hours and hours of math, all of this shit. And I'm just simply not willing to try any more combos out. I've racked my brain to try to come up with the most efficient way to heal on Disc Priest, and this is what I've settled on so far. So I welcome anybody else to continue theory crafting, coming up with new combos, different ways to play the Disc Priest. But personally, I've settled on one winning combo, and is this. You Shadow Word Pain. Then you do 6 Power Word Shields on average. It'll be 8 when you use your Rapture cooldown. but normally we'll say 6. Then you cast 1 Power Radiance. Okay? Then you put Schism on the boss, so now you're doing 40% increased damage. Then you hit them with either, if you have Halo up, you use Halo. If you don't have Halo up, you go immediately into a Penance, and then it's 6 Smites, and then rinse and repeat. This combo will do literally the healing of a Tranquility for honestly not that much mana. It's pretty insane. So you like essentially you don't just like constantly heal, you do these huge combos, guys. Like, it's really hard to explain. But yeah, with that in mind, I will bring out the last and final thing over here. So I have the combos written out here. So your best combo is going to be the one with Evangelism, which is EVA. All this is abbreviated so I can fit it on here, guys. The keys up here. So essentially Shadow Word Pain plus 6 Power Word Shields plus 2 Power Radiances plus Evangelism plus Schism plus what the hell is SF again? Plus Shadow Fiend, that's right. Plus Shadow Fiend, Halo, Penance, and 10 Smites. It's 20,000 healing for 40% of your mana, essentially, right? 20,000 healing is insane. That's like 3 Tranquilities, guys. Like, you have easily one of the strongest like combos in the game, and it takes about 30 seconds to pull it off, but you will completely heal. You can heal a raid essentially, like almost the entire raid straight for like 30 seconds to almost anything. Like, Disc Priest is just insane. But when your combo's down and you're out of your power radiances, you're kind of just you're chilling, right? Like, you're very much like this, like, you power up, you're putting out your Shadow Word Pain, you're putting out your shields, you're putting out your power radiances, you're increasing the duration with Evangelism, you're schisming, and then now it's go time. It's like, finally, and the first spell after you schism, like if it's power or if it's penance, especially if it's empowered, oh my god, the numbers on your screen, it's just madness. So I didn't put any of the individual spells efficiencies up here because I felt like the combos were better. So I laid out each combo, and so essentially, I have the numbers accidentally repeated. We'll fix that right now. But essentially, I put some of the combos. These aren't all the combos that I theory crafted, but these are the highest ones, the highest efficiencies. You're only going to use the first and second combo, okay? So this is the combo with Evangelism and 2 power radiances. This is the combo with just 1 power radiance. Essentially, there's going to be 2 schism combos in between every schism Evangelism combo. So 2/3 of your combos are going to be number 2. 1/3 of your combos, the super powerful combo, is going to be number 1. So, and each one of these 2 combos are like stronger than Tranquilities. Like, it's really hard to explain how much healing you guys are going to be doing in these combos, and they have to be pulled off correctly. This is a very strict class, and it's very difficult to play, and you have to time your healing around damage very well. This is not a beginner healer spec, and I would only suggest playing this if you're really good and you really want to have a crazy impact on your raid. But it's going to be very difficult to play. Anyways, let's see. So yeah, the rotation. So every 3rd combo is going to be the number 1. The other 2 combos will be number 2. So here's how you guys are going to do it. Basically, you watch your schism cooldown, right? When there's about 10 seconds left, you Shadow Word Pain. After you Shadow Word Pain, you cast about 6 Power Word Shields. You can do 8 if you have your Rapture cooldown up. Then that's when you cast your Power Radiance, right? And I have it listed right here. So here's the combo 2. Yeah. So Shadow Word Pain, 6 Power Word Shields, 1 Power Radiance, into Schism, into Penance, into 6 Smites. That's the rotation for combo number 2. For combo number 1, which is a lot more difficult, Shadow Word Pain, 6 Power Word Shields, 2 Power Word Radiances, use Evangelism, Schism, Shadow Fiend, Halo, Penance, and 10 Smites. It's insane. Let me just suggest this right now. You are going to need some insane weak auras, and I will definitely be making weak auras in the next couple of days, and I think I'm gonna make a video about how to make proper weak auras. But this is a absolute must for this class. You need to know cooldowns, you need to know the duration of Rapture, you need to know the duration of the debuff of your Schism on the boss. So I made a weak aura that tracks Schism, and I made a weak aura that tracks Rapture. So I know when to stop power shielding, and I know when to stop doing damage and healing with Atonement. since these combos use almost all of your mana, that's basically it. There's nothing outside of this combo. Like, you won't really be healing outside these combos too much. But the combos almost take all of your time to pull off anyways, right? Schism has a 24-second cooldown. And every time Schism's up, you're going to do a big combo, right? So it's like, you do the combo, you chill for a few seconds, you notice that Schism's got about 10 seconds left on its cooldown, and you go right back into the combo. You know, Shadow Word Pain, 6 powered shields, power radiance, Schism, penance, all that. And then smite, 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 smite. Then you're done for a few seconds. You wait till your Schism's coming off cooldown, gets about 10 seconds, and you redo it all over again. It is a lot of fun. It's just a very strict rotation, and yeah. All right, tips. Use your Rapture on cooldown after Shadow Word Pain before you cast all the Power Word Shields. When you Rapture, you're going to want to cast about 7 to 8 Power Word Shields instead of the typical 6. Timing your combo around raid damage is a must. This is the hardest healer to play, guys, and you have to really time it around when there's actually going to be damage that's dealt to your raid, which is going to be difficult because we don't really know anything about the expansion just yet. So hopefully you guys have gotten some experience in beta, but otherwise you're just going to be overhealing with this combo. Yeah, I mentioned that already. Schism only affects one enemy, so make sure all of your atonement damage is going to be onto that target, or else it's basically complete waste, right? And make sure that your Schism target isn't about to die, and it's not about to phase out. So you really got to know the fights with this, guys. Discipline Priest is probably not going to work for every fight, by the way. So you're probably going to need to learn how to play Holy. There's going to be some fights where just Disc can't work, you know? So if you're in a Mythic raiding guild, you'll most likely have to learn how to play Holy Priest at some point, and you might have to do it for maybe like 10% of the fights or something. It won't be too crazy. You won't have to do it every fight, but you're probably going to have to make some sacrifices and learn how to play it. If you're not a Mythic Plus raider, hey, stick to Disc Priest the whole time. I'm sure if you try hard enough, you probably won't get kicked out of your heroic raiding guild or whatever, you know. And if you're watching this, you probably care enough anyway. So my guess is you're gonna be okay. If you want to watch anything on Holy Priest, I have the link here. Feel free to copy that. We'll put it in the description down below. Here's a typical average cast in a 6-minute fight. So your cast should look something like this if you want to know if you're doing it correctly. And you're probably going to have to use a mana pot to be able to use this combo almost every time, and that should probably put you right at the right amount of mana. And remember, guys, you can take whatever you want for this row for your mana management and change our rotation up. Obviously, Mindbender is going to be used with Schism every single time in a Power of Radiance. So you would want to do the same thing with Solace, but you would also want to hit Solace on cooldown as much as possible. And Chill Discipline does not change your rotation at all, and it's the easiest to use. But these ones probably have more potential. So that's it for me, guys. I'm sorry that the video was so long. There's still just so much to talk about, and we really only scratched the surface. But I understand that, you know, people don't have all day to listen to me ramble. So I applaud anybody who decides to play Disc Priest. It's going to be very difficult, and I'll have all the Google Docs below, so feel free to check it out. Also, guys, you can always catch me on Twitch, streaming at twitch.tv/lightwater. Feel free to email me any questions or hit me up in chat and ask any questions, or you know, call me Big Dummy or something in the chat section on YouTube. So that's it from me, guys, and I will see you later. All right, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you for watching. Remember, you can always catch me streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/lightwater. If you have any questions, you can feel free to hit me up there or in the comment section down below. Also, make sure you guys check the Google Docs below, because it has all the information that I was talking about and much, much more. I barely skimmed the surface, so seriously, guys, there's so much math and stuff in there. And if you guys have any suggestions about what we should do for our next videos or how to make them better, we are totally open to criticism. As you can tell, we aren't the most professional, but we are trying to provide the best data possible for healers currently. So thank you guys for watching once again, and let's make healing great again.